Hi, it's Elena from financialdemics.com, and I help you reach your money goals. This week, I'm going to talk about how I pay cash for my wedding. All right, entertainment. So, some people like the idea of having a band, but bands are very expensive, and we're just not band people. But if you like bands, you should definitely do it. Just make sure you have the budget for it. What we end up doing is we end up going with a DJ. My friend is a DJ, he's really good, and so he was perfect for our event. I have seen smaller weddings where they've used like they just got a playlist together and worked it out on an iPod or a phone or whatever. And if that's an option for you, then that's fine. But I definitely found a DJ. Well, who was my friend? But if my friend couldn't do it, I was going to find a DJ and to do our wedding. So DJs are typically cheaper than a band. So if that's something you want to do, you can give the DJ exactly the type of music you want. I definitely supplied my DJ with some of the definite songs we wanted him to play, and he did a great job. And so that's something for you to consider. Another thing that affects the cost per person is the decorations. So that's including like flowers, the tablecloths, if you have chair covers, if you have charges, the type of plates and forks and all of that stuff, utensils. That affects the cost per person also, including your centerpieces. So you want to be cognizant of that because, of course, that's going to affect your numbers, right? So when I was younger and did not know any better, I definitely just knew I was going to have real flowers. First of all, I'm not a big flower girl. Like, you don't have to bring me flowers in real life. So that just didn't make any sense. And when it came down to it, when I started looking at the numbers, I didn't I didn't care enough. So don't let nobody tell you that, you know, your wedding is less than if you don't have real flowers. You ain't gotta have real flowers. My bouquet was not even real flowers. I think my bouquet had some silk flowers in it with like little crystals in it, if I'm not mistaken. And as you can see, I can't even remember that well. It's one day. Don't spend all your money. If I'm not mistaken, that's what it had in it. But I ended up going with silk flowers. I didn't have a lot of flowers. I ended up having more than I planned on just because I had a great designer who came in to help with that piece. And so you can have other things to decorate your wedding with. You don't have to have a lot of flowers. Don't think of that. Go to Pinterest. Pinterest had a lot of great ideas. So I kind of had an idea when I spoke to the designer. And so what she did to actually design the wedding was actually very great within my budget where I was not going broke, and I completely appreciate it. I'll also drop her information below. If you're in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, because that's where I got married, if you're looking, she's the person you want to use. And then some little things that people don't think about that I paid for that was definitely money well spent. I actually had a planner, which is how I ended up with a designer for the actual decorations. My planner was amazing. She was a great friend who was planning before. She only comes out of retirement for her friends, and so I'm thankful that she came out for retirement for me, and that was money well spent, because I would have went crazy. So um, you definitely want to consider that. That's something that I knew I was going to have a planner, and I was willing to cut back in other areas to have a planner. Here are a few things that I saved on. I saved on a photographer. My uncle is a photographer, so I was gifted with his services for the wedding, which I'm so appreciative of. But if you're looking for a photographer, because I did look around initially just to make sure, just in case he couldn't make it, you never know what happens, right? Sometimes, everybody wants that best photographer in your city, like they do great work, but there's also sometimes photographers who are on the small side, or they're just beginning, who are really great, and so keep your eyes open. Make sure you speak to people and see if you can find a photographer who has like great rates in your area. There's also some great student photographers out there, um, who actually have experience in doing weddings. when I was helping a friend years ago, we actually found a student photographer who knew what he was doing and had been doing it for a minute. It's just he was still in school at the time, learning and honing in on his skill. But he had done a couple weddings and he actually did an amazing job. So keep your eye open for things like that. Um, if you're looking for a photographer, you don't want to spend a lot of money. I did not have a videographer, and this is why. When I was talking to my planner and just talking to some of my friends who had been married before, nobody watched their video after the first time. And truthfully, like me and my husband, like we are not sappy like that. Like we're not gonna watch that video. And we haven't even like I have not regretted not having a videographer. Um I decided not to pay for a videographer. If you want one and that's your thing, do your thing. But I chose not to. But if you really want a videographer, if you attend a church and your church records their services, I would say talk to like the person who does that, especially if you know them, because there's people out there who are really good at these type of things, but they're just not doing it like as a business. If you're really pressed on it, or maybe you can find like an up and coming videographer in your area. Another thing I didn't have to pay for was officiant. We attend church on the regular, so my officiant was actually a former pastor who I had a great relationship with. So we were blessed that we didn't have to pay for an officiant for our wedding. If you're talking about marriage with your significant other, or if you are newly engaged, I think one of the top things you want to set is a budget. I didn't necessarily set my budget for $15,000 originally. Once we started looking at venues, because we started looking at venues before we set an actual date, we wanted to know like how much do we think this is going to cost to have this wedding. And so once we got an idea of the cost, then we sat down and actually set a budget for the actual wedding, and then we knew how much we needed to save. And so what I ended up doing was I looked at my particular budget and saw where I had extra money that I really wasn't doing anything with. Like I was just really just, spending it randomly on stuff. And so I took that money and I actually put it in a particular savings account. It was just for wedding expenses. And so that was a way in which I saved money. The money that I saved for the wedding was saved every pay period automatically. And then also like around the time that I was getting married or during the period while I was engaged, I knew I was going to get a bonus at work. So I knew how much from that bonus I was going to put in the wedding savings. So that's a thought for you also. One thing I didn't mention, I forgot to talk about my dress. So I paid for my dress separate from my wedding savings, but it still fell within the $15,000 budget. My dress was $1,600. I originally saw it in New York City, but I don't know. I just couldn't pull the trigger. So when I went back to Charlotte, I searched all around, found a small boutique. Out of all the bigger like wedding places, I found a small boutique who had the dress, and I ended up getting the dress from there. So I will say when it comes to your dresses, like everybody thinks of like the large places and like all of this, but the small boutique really came through, and actually I got the best service from that small boutique. And so check out the smaller places in your area, and don't be scared to venture outside of your area. Even though I lived in Charlotte, there was a small town outside of Charlotte that I got the dress from, and I think that really affected, like, of course dresses have their prices, but like it was definitely higher everywhere else I saw it than where it was at this particular boutique. Our honeymoon was also included in the cost of the wedding. My husband actually paid for the honeymoon all on his own, so he actually saved for that himself. Don't let the thought of when you're saving for a wedding, like if you get tax refunds, if you get bonuses or anything like that, like contribute that amount towards the wedding to help offset it. Also, if you're looking for ways to offset a wedding, then sometimes maybe you want to do a couple of side hustles, or maybe you want to get a second job. But the reason why we definitely paid cash for the wedding was because I did not want to pay for um, a wedding after the day. Like I was set on that, and it was just from talking to people about their own experiences. These are some tips to help you pay cash for your own wedding if you're looking for ways to do that. Also, if you're unable to pay cash, these tips can help you just keep your costs down some. And you know what? Even if you're not engaged yet, you can start saving. Like, why not start saving for that? If you know that one day you're going to get married, then start putting money aside. Um, I know people try to say people are crazy for doing stuff like that, but if that is a goal for you, why would you not save towards your goal? So, again, I'm Elena from financialdemics.com. Make sure you thumbs up the video, and subscribe if you're not already following me. I'll be coming to you with new videos every week about managing your money so you can reach your goals. And I'll see you next time. Bye.